In today's hyper-competitive e-commerce landscape, brands need high-quality, high-volume visual content fast. But how do you scale content production without compromising quality, efficiency, or creativity? Is AI the answer? And how does the future of product imagery look like? Welcome to Fashion Frames, the podcast where today we explore the cutting edge of fashion visuals from AI-driven content to next generation photography techniques. And if you're in the fashion industry and you're looking to streamline your content strategy, this episode is for you because today we have Mateusz Zablocki with us. You began your journey at Boozt as a photographer in 2010,
Yes.
when Boozt was still in a startup phase.
Yeah.
After you left Boots for a little bit, you explored and pursued a career connected to some of your other passions like tech and design. I think you worked as a front-end developer for a few years,
Yes.
but then you
Correct.
decided
Yeah.
to return to
Yeah.
Boots in
Yeah.
2015. And
Yes.
you've ever since you've been involved in planning, designing, and developing both the infrastructure in the studio as well as the internal and external image flows and processes. So
Correct.
you are an industry expert with a wealth of experience in scaling visual workflows, integrating AI, and transforming content production for e-commerce brands. Matthias, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Really exciting topic to cover. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. I've seen most of the things from the backstage. I've been privileged to see grow the company grow from not only from the switching offices and the front end of it, but also the back end. Let's put it like this. So yeah, we've been growing immensely over the past years, and of course, the success lies not only in our imagery and how we do things, but we rely a lot on the technology, definitely, when it comes to leveraging the best tech out there. We have our warehouses is quite automated. We have a huge auto store, so you have picking and of goods. It's automated, and all these things that help us to scale the operations.
Mm. And e-commerce brands, they nowadays need hundreds, sometimes thousands of product images,
Yeah.
campaign visuals, and videos every season. It's very fast paced. The question really is how do you maintain this top tier quality as you scale?
There are different ways to look at it. I think we're seeing more and more brands trying to deliver their own imagery. Let's say our studio have seen the competition from outside, and there's different aspects why the brands are trying to get the possession of the images, the control, and basically it boils down to the control to perceive the product as they want it, the product to be seen. And there's of course the production part that needs to be scaled with that. Not all images that are coming from the vendor provided imagery is suited for our production, and we need to transform that in some ways. Then you have, of course, our production, our internal production that needs to meet the volumes and also to be able to deliver the amount of images that we have. I think last time I checked the numbers, we have something like 1.3 million images
That's a lot.
annually. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
We have over 1,000 brands on our website. So in order to scale the production, there are different ways. If you just isolate the internal production to be able to deliver on the demand, you're basically working with three metrics. One is the speed. The other is, of course, the quality, and the third is always being the cost. So you have all these things battling to be able to deliver images at a reasonable cost. And to do that, you have to think systematically. You cannot have different stations and productions and different angles for all different kind of brands. You have to streamline the process. You have to definitely think from a very streamlined perspective, and I think that's what I've learned a lot throughout the years, to be able to push the boundaries of what we can deliver when it comes to the internal production. So there's tons of cost, tons of things that needs to be set in order to get the required images. And then of course the vendor provided imagery, that's a whole different topic. The best possible solutions for the brands when it comes to delivering images, because if you think of AI and if you think of vendor provided imagery, if you have one set of the object, you have the object and you have different outputs depending on the different channels you would like to output it. AI can absolutely leverage that and make sure that we hit the mark on the demands for the channels, right? So if we just imagine having, let's say, a pair of sneakers, different angles for different companies or different resellers. I think the leverage of using AI, that's where we can definitely have AI to make it. So we don't have to, as our company, because we have the guidelines, right? So we have to commit to those. If you think of the step that is happening throughout the supply chain, and if we jump back to the vendor, and if they can provide us with the image and the correct guideline and whatever, how we want to express it, that's our kind of way of doing it. I see
So it
that as a
helps with
huge
the
example.
consistency that the
Yes,
brands need,
yes.
right? But
That's
also
that's
the
yeah.
variety.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest issues that I see right now, that brands try to deliver images that are actually not part of our guideline. So we then need to make sure that we actually capture the images the way we want them to be seen, right? And then you have all these aspects. Now, if brand, whatever we can call it, the brand X, have different channels, let's say they sell for us and other competitors on the market, they can adopt their ways to actually sell the images or adapt to the channel with the leverage of AI or also 3D, because that is also something that I see as part of the new strategy for e-com images.
Yeah, it's a good combination. Actually,
Mm.
3D on its own was never able to reach what it can now with AI in the mix. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard that many times from brands now. But do you then believe that AI and automation is the new backbone of content production? Is it the secret weapon that e-commerce brands need?
What we need to think of is the customer's sentiment. How are they actually receiving the images? And what we're essentially doing with our images is that we are committing to some sort of trust. We're saying that, hey, this is an image of a product that we sell. So basically, if you think about it, people are buying videos and media and putting them into the basket before they get the product. So we need that trust.
Yeah.
So if we are able to convince people that even if this is, this is not real, and but if you trust us, you will get the product and it will look the same. I don't see any obstacles here, because I was thinking about it the other day, and it's something like a sci-fi movie. I love sci-fi, by the way, and I was really amazed about the CGI on the June films, the June movies.
June,
It's
yeah, yeah.
really great. The scenery, the costumes, everything is like really, really great. So you don't think about, you are just, if something is really badly done, right? Like for example, these Star Wars movies that Walt Disney produced, and it was just bad. You're just agonizing about things that and you're nitpicking. But if something is really great, you don't think about it. You just
Yeah.
accept it as it is, as you were part of the movie, right? So I think we
But do
need
you
to
feel
overcome the
like customers
obstacle.
then need to be aware of what was 3D or AI generated?
Hmm.
Do we need to flag that? Do we need to mark it somehow?
That's a very good question, and it's a hard question because if you're a good retoucher, and I think I
Hmm.
mentioned
No,
it.
this is interesting
That's
because we've been using tools like Photoshop in the past. So
yeah,
what is actually real at this point and what has been retouched is not necessarily flagged somehow. We kind of assume nowadays that pictures have been retouched.
yeah.
I think everyone is aware at this point. Does it mean it's not real?
This is the thing that I think people are struggling with because I think people perceive photography as a reproduction of reality, and it's not.
Mm.
Absolutely not. And I know that because I always refer, and it's a sort of a joke, but it's half truth that good photographers are good liars. Period. So what we do, we manipulate the reality. So if you think about it, if you backtrack it,
Mm.
you choose a camera, you choose a format of a camera, small or large, I mean medium format. You choose the lens, meaning the angle of and also how much you can actually show of a subject. Do you
Mm.
crop it or not? If in the thousands of images that you take, then you actually edit and you pick the images. So small steps towards that. Then I'm not talking about the retouching process because that's a totally different beast. You can do a lot
Mhm.
with that. So the question is, what is reality in that sense, right? How
Yeah.
do we need to put this? Oh, this is real, but we know when we look at some fashionable imagery and something, it is not real. Do we need to
Fashion is
explicitly
fantasy. We are
tell?
selling a
Yeah,
fantasy in the end.
we're selling a feeling.
We're selling feeling, yeah.
Yeah. So there needs to be, yes, I think we can absolutely say that this is AI generated, but I was raising the question also the moral questions, and it came up to the question that was raised was, yeah, we need to put some. I know Norway is really strict about it. That's if the image has been manipulated, you have to put a mark on it.
Mm.
But the question remains if, as photographer or stylist or a creative group, we can pick models that are anorectic, that are not, we are manipulating people and choosing things, then showing that this is the fashion, this is the way. So where is the difference here? There's the lines are blurred,
Mm. Where
and
does
of
it start?
course,
Where does
yeah,
it end? Yeah.
yeah. But
But
then
it's not only that. I feel like AI can also help with more mundane tasks, right? Like automated retouching, not just virtual models, which I also think is amazing to
yeah,
look at, but
yeah,
automated retouching, for example.
yeah.
How does that change the content creation?
I mean, it has sped up immensely over the years. I have had this idea, still have this idea that, we've been using post production extensively throughout the years, and it has actually the last couple of years it has declined because of the vendor provided imagery, but also we're seeing tools that are emerging on the market. The last thing that I was part of incorporating in our system, I found a really good package to remove a background, and
Mm.
it's based on a salient object recognitions, meaning that it recognized the most important object in the frame. So you
Mhm.
can remove things that are actually really hard for AI otherwise to recognize, because it's recognized, let's say you have a bottle and there's a scene behind it, it will recognize the bottle and remove the background that is blurry. That was impossible like 3-4 years ago. So I see the progress coming, and I see also the tools coming out on the market. And I believe that we still, if we're going to keep the internal studios rolling, and we will keep the internal production, and we're not going to scale it. I think leveraging AI tools and what's on the market will help us to deliver things faster, and we can probably do it internally with minimum of amount of people, right? So I see that definitely. But the question about if it can scale AI, absolutely. I think, again, it's all about lying correctly. It's all about getting the product to its truthful impression of
Yeah.
a product. So if we are able to instead of shooting things on mannequins or models, and if we're able to leverage that and say, hey, this is good enough, this is really great, we can scale it, we can keep the consistency, we can, there are the minimal errors here. Absolutely, I see tons of benefits using AI. And just think about it: the makeup artist, the stylists, all the people that need to be involved in the production, and also leveraging products in their natural environment in order
Yeah.
to give our customers the way to perceive and to to get their imagination going, so to speak. So if you have, let's say, I think there was something that I read about, was it Zalando that leverages AI to showcase snowboards and skiing
Yeah, I've seen that.
events.
I've seen that too. There was
Yeah,
an article about it, I
and
believe.
it's
Yeah.
super smart because if you think
Yeah.
about it, the whole production of getting people into snow, and it's not always possible during the year.
Yeah.
um, you know,
That's very expensive.
of
You
course,
have
of
to
course.
really bring your equipment, the model, as you said, also makeup artist,
Yeah.
all to that location and
Yes.
then hope to get a good shot that day.
Yeah.
And then of course there's also editing afterwards because you maybe want to have a little bit more snow or you want to have more sunshine. So it's a really long process and very
Yes.
cost intensive.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But now we talked about Zalando, and also you seem to have a very positive, or you seem to have a positive idea
Mhm.
of where AI could
Mhm.
go. Do you see brands fully embracing AI, or do you see there's still hesitation?
There's a lot of hesitation in the industry, I see, mainly because maybe people are reflecting on the bad examples,
Hmm.
not the good ones. There was I don't know if you heard about it. It was Victoria Beckham also doing AI imagery that was really, really bad.
No, I haven't heard about it.
Yeah.
What did it look like?
Oh,
What
it's
was the problem with it?
things that typically what AI struggles is with is like hair. It could be skin texture. All the artifacts that you could see were seen, and it was too perfect. It was
Oh, okay, it
just
was too
too perfect
perfect.
to a
Oh,
degree that was like, it is fake.
yeah.
It wasn't believable. And I
Mm.
think you can look it up on the web. The campaign was really, um, they definitely had a lot of meanings about it. So I think we reflect on the bad outcomes instead of the good
Hmm.
outcomes. And I think also, there's this narrative in the fashion industry that is still, about, yeah, they use AI because they not cannot afford models. This kind of
Yeah.
yeah. So that's the other
Do you
aspect
agree
of it.
with that?
Um, you know, I mean, fashion business is a little bit superficial. So I definitely can see some of the things around this being raised, questions, but you know, again, I'm going back to the idea that if something is really greatly constructed and it's a great image, you don't question it. You don't question,
Yeah.
oh, it was AI, oh, it was this camera, oh, it was the. It is like if you have a good content, people will forget about how it was done.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
again, blurring the differences between reality and imagination. It's about the creatives. So
Yeah.
to construct the images that we or the customers or the audience can actually accept.
So now we talked about campaigns, which is about selling a fantasy, having backgrounds, but there's also the photography of just product catalogs, really
Mm.
just showing the model with the
Yeah,
garment, usually on a white
yeah.
backdrop, um,
The lookbook things.
the
Yeah,
lookbook
yeah,
things.
yeah, 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 yeah.
What if you could create an entire lookbook or
Yeah.
product catalog
Mm.
without a single photo shoot?
Again, it's about getting trust and having a rigid Q&A because we've seen things that AI might overlook. We need to make
Mhm.
sure that the trust remains, meaning that the the quality is assured of it.
Mm.
But doing that, and if that can be done on scale, I'm quite positive it can. Absolutely, because it is definitely. I wouldn't say it's not as creative, but it is creative to get the lookbook. But once you get the rules, let's put it like this,
Yeah.
of the lookbook, you don't want to change too much. You want to have the consistency. You don't want to people think about, oh, why did they have this light? Or it is just for comparison's sake, for reference, the kind of back of your head, you want the consistency, you want the same size, you want absolutely. That's one of the top things that I see AI doing, definitely.
It also means you have enough data then when you have these rules established and you have a lot of these photos that have a similar look, you can
Yes.
train an AI to
Yes.
replicate that much more easily than creating very creative campaigns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. But there are also these hybrid approaches, no? I mean, you have the creative content, you have purely you have the creative content, you have purely AI created content.
Mhm.
But how do you feel about these hybrid approaches where you maybe have a photo shoot as a basis and then you add with AI? Could be replacing the model, could be replacing the background. Do you feel that's easier to realize? It's an easier first step into implementing AI?
Not necessarily. It depends on
No?
the case. I mean,
Okay.
the case that I mentioned before, having the production in in winter, selling snowboards or whatever, that's definitely would be a great case.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think the only way I would have a kind of a hybrid approach is that AI is not controllable to that extent.
Hmm.
You cannot control every bit of aspect. Yeah, you can repaint things in
Yeah, you can
AI, and
tweak.
you can do it to a certain extent, but it's not as detailed as, let's say,
Mm.
3D or a model could be. So for that particular reason, yes, if you can speed up the process by having a model at certain stance and certain looks, or then absolutely. I still think I've been thinking about it lately. How is it possible to like um, with AR, the augmented reality,
Hmm.
that you have partly things that are I mean digital, not
Yeah.
real than real. That is a good example where you actually can have sort of a hybrid approach. And let's say if you're if you'd like to have that and exercise that control over AI. Maybe a just a snapshot with some sort of a look that you're after, or the pose that you're after from a human being, or even the face expression can be can act as example for AI to leverage to actually create some image based on the way. So in that sense, yes, hybrid approach could definitely be. You don't have to go out in the snow and pose, but you can do it on a white wall, and then incrementally leverage that to a full blown AI image. So yeah, hybrid approach, yes, but not necessary. I don't.
Okay.
It depends on the situation.
Yeah, because when I talk to brands, what I hear oftentimes is, oh, if we start with a hybrid approach, it's a bit more approachable. It's a little bit more of like easing into AI instead of going fully into 100% AI generated content.
I
Maybe
think it's
that's just a
just fear.
feeling. Maybe that's
Yeah.
just from a change management perspective, I guess, also this human feeling of I want to have some reality still in there
Hmm.
to ease in.
Yeah, I think it's just fear and fear of new technology. It's I think it's more about being a little bit insecure and not seeing
Mm.
enough of examples, good examples, and how to approach it, and how to actually execute the results that they think of. So convincing people will take time, I think, but
Mm.
we're already there. It's happened.
Many brands, as you just said, many brands fear AI content
Yeah.
because it lacks, or they believe it lacks, this soul of human
Mm.
creativity.
No.
What is your take on that?
I think it's quite the opposite, because
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
I think for me has been, I started quite lately with AI, but I picked it up quite fast. It was just last year, beginning of last
Mm.
year. It was just a joke, because my manager wanted to swap faces. I was like, I gotta test this Mid Journey thing, and it blew me away. It was like, wow, it's the things that I get from AI, and also the acting as a catalyst for new ideas. It's mind blowing. And I had a thought about it the other day. Yes, I can fake an image, and you wouldn't able to see if it's AI or not.
Hmm. Yeah,
100%.
we are at that point, I feel like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I know what I know the details to tweak to get the grain going or whatever. But I'm also trapped in my head about how photography should be perceived, because we have the reference point to photography, and I can fake it. But at the same time, I want to be totally naive about, and see the novelty of AI, to see,
Mm.
hey, how can we do something that is not a reference to photography, just something wild. I had this discussion actually with a friend, that you can only do good images if you're a photographer, or you
Mm.
a director. You've seen enough movies, you have the reference frames and so on. I don't think necessarily that, because we can go beyond, and people that haven't studied photography and haven't done anything with photography can do something that is just out of proportion. And I have a quite funny anecdote here, because I was listening to Joe Rogan podcast with the chess champion Magnus Carlsen. Do you know him?
No, actually not.
Okay.
I'm
So
not a
he's
big chess fan,
he's the prodigy from
but I'm happy
Norway.
to learn.
Yeah, prodigy from Norway. That as he's a world champion in chess, and he was playing with his dad, and Magnus knows all the openings that you can think
Mm.
of in chess, while his father was doing totally, you know, opposite what openings are, because he doesn't have the background as Magnus has. And Magnus asked him, why are you using that opening? And he was referring to, yeah, because you taught me to do that for the white, but it's not doable for the black opening, or the vice versa. And the funny fact is that Magnus picked up that opening, which was wrong, as one of his opening later on. So, the learning point is not being naive about things. I think we can push the boundaries with AI so much that it's,
So
so
you feel
yeah.
like it can almost be limiting coming from this education, or
Yes.
haven't seen so much that is
Yeah.
what you feel is right,
Yes.
instead of being able to
Yes.
look beyond that.
Yes.
That is very interesting to look at,
Yeah.
because I feel that most people believe AI can only do what you train AI to do.
Mm.
But then I had another podcast guest recently, Claudia, and she said, embrace the error. That was
Yeah.
her like main line when it comes to AI, because it can also create something new by, of course, based on the data, mixing
Mm.
something that maybe
Mm.
you haven't thought of. So that's exactly what you're saying now.
Yes. And yeah, there are, happy accidents with AI. You can sometimes, I mean, if you look
Happy
at,
accidents.
yeah.
I always need to think about this painter. What was his name again?
Mm.
Who always said happy accidents.
I don't know.
Bob Ross. Bob Ross.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Bob Ross always said happy accidents whenever
Mm.
there was some paint like splashing on the canvas. Was a happy accident. We work with it. I love that. I feel like that's what we can do with AI as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, of course, we can laugh about the six fingers thing, or
The
extra
sausage
legs,
fingers,
but
yeah.
if you're creative, you can leverage that.
But AI has come a long way since
Yeah.
then. It can
Yeah.
actually do hands now. Most of the time, they look quite good.
Yep.
But if we think about AI, you don't believe that brands will sacrifice originality or efficiency by leveraging AI in the future.
I don't think costs should be always be defended. Like,
Hmm.
oh, we can cut the costs. All right. But what are we gaining in the long end, right? Because cost can always be accumulated to the short term strategy of a brand. And I think it boils down to the brand understanding their long term, or their ethos, or the spirit of the brand.
Mm.
And AI is again another tool. If that fits the purpose, if they can, if they can control the output, and it's within their ethos and lines, and spirit, and creativity, why not? I don't see any problems here. I don't see any obstacles. But I think there's still the public sentiment about AI. What is it? How can I, how can I consume it?
Yeah.
Because there's different factors that we need to take into account. Again, it's about the trust the brand builds with the customer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
it will slowly get there. I think it will also hopefully create new ways, and the way we see it, creativity, I hope.
Fast forward 5 years from now.
Mhm.
Do you think AI will completely take over e-commerce visuals? And what does the future hold for AI-driven content production?
I think, yeah, for me, it's again about the trust in the Q&A. Like, if we can trust AI to replicate the object on a model that is, that is truthful, and we can scale it, and the error, the there are minimal errors with it. Absolutely, I don't see any problems. And of course, the quality and the appearance, and everything should be in place. But I absolutely don't see any problems, any obstacles, except those. And also what I was referring to in the beginning, once you have the setup, once you have the object or whatever, you can create the different outcomes depending on the channel. So going back to, let's say, if the brand realizes that they have the full control of the outcome, that is a huge thing and an advantage for a brand, because as humans we want to control the outcome of our products, or things that we do. We want to
Yeah.
maintain it, but yeah, 5 years from now, absolutely, that's a lot in AI years.
Do you have any
Yeah.
do you have any advice? Because you have so much knowledge in workflows and the whole content production from start to finish. What advice would you give brands to if they want to create this future-proof content strategy for themselves?
I think they need to define the opportunities that they have first. So for every brand, every reseller, define the opportunities and see how it fits your flow, because there's no doubt that AI will cut the costs. It will be much faster than anything you can imagine doing in studio. So defining the opportunities is the first step. But I also would like to say that, AI, they need to define where and how they want their images to look and what are the opportunities for the images. And there are different approaches. I think, if you want to exercise more control, maybe photogrammetry is the way to go forward, right? So for those who don't know what photogrammetry is it's basically scanning object 3D, scanning in 3D an object that with a phone or a device that will output a 3D asset that you can control. So there are hybrid ways, definitely, and I think start small, figure out what you want to do. Make sure you have the Q&A in place so it doesn't hallucinate and do things that are totally off the charts, and be able to scale it slowly, like with anything else. Like with studio, we try to scale our production, trying not to build different, let's say, if you think about it as a Lego, you don't want to build different Lego structures. You want to keep the same thing in order to have the streamline, consistency, cost, and everything else. So there's a couple of things that brands or resellers need to think of.
Yeah. So when implementing AI or any new technology, really, it's always important to not just think about it as a silo. Okay, now I'm implementing AI in this specific step, but also think about the consequences that it has upstream and downstream, right?
Yeah, definitely.
One last question for you, Mateusz. If you had to predict just one game-changing innovation in e-commerce content production for the next decade, what would that be for you?
That's a hard one. I think AI will definitely have play a huge role in this setup. E-commerce. Do you think of as e-commerce in general, how we look at things, how we actually consume the website or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing that hasn't been really explored is the augmented reality and virtual reality. I think it's a really, really interesting how we can also.
It's been around for a long time, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, but never
But
really utilized.
I'm still waiting for Apple Vision to be released in Europe. I was about to go to US to buy one, but I didn't. So it's hopefully coming this year. I don't know. So that would be great to actually try. And I think I mentioned for another podcast there was a similar question, because if you treat things in a more abstract way and you look at things in data, right? So why, we try to, if you look at the website, we try to make a website that is images, constructs of images. What if AI can do that for you? Let's say you go to a certain site, and then you just ask for all the black jeans or whatever, and put it in a nice product listing page that it's outside the scope or the control of the certain brand or e-commerce reseller. You just want the images. You don't care about this, and maybe you just care for the discounts. I don't know. That can be done. AI can do that for you, and also can do it for you while wearing the Apple Vision. So I think augmented reality will be really interesting. I mean, I'm looking at my what the younger generation is doing when they're playing games, right? So one big thing in games today is skins. So skins are the way characters perceive themselves, right? Different clothes, different sneakers.
E-commerce moves fast, but great branding takes time. Can AI help brands scale without losing that creative edge?
Yeah, absolutely. I think again, it boils down to what brands are trying to, what values of brands are happy to push, and how they and the identity of the brand, of course. So if yeah, strategy about being a brand that, let's say, subscribes to sustainability or minimalism, absolutely, it depends on the brand. Definitely, I don't see any obstacles at all.
Is consumers are faced with more and more AI content. Are they embracing AI generated visuals, or do you still feel like they prefer traditional content?
I think it depends on how the image is constructed, how the image is created. Our reference point is always photography, and if it's overly perfect, it will raise questions. So it depends on the photographer or the prompt engineer, in this case, creative, to create an image that is truthful. And if it's truthful, if it's good, people will never question how it was done. They will just accept it.
Yeah. And last but not least, how do brands strike the right balance between speed and maintaining this premium high-end look?
I think it goes back again to a brand strategy, the brand identity, and what their narrative is. So if AI, because it's just not a tool in the tool set, if AI is a good fit for it, I don't see any obstacles, and I don't see, and I actually see more creativity through AI than real photography, so to speak. So it depends. I think the brand needs to be aware of what the identity is and also the strategy forward. It's a catalyst. It's such a
Yeah,
catalyst. I mean, if you think of it, it's not just visually, but I have become, ever since I have been using AI to write emails, I've become a better writer because I pushed myself to write the email first. And then you have the aha moment that AI creates for you by correcting you. It's like, oh, didn't know about this word. Oh, all
it's
right.
enhancing your abilities really,
Yeah.
but if you use it in the right way and with your voice in the
Yes.
beginning,
Yes.
then it can really get you somewhere, yeah.
It's the same thing. Like if you try to write the code first, and then yeah, it doesn't work, you can iterate over it and get and AI can help you to correct you, but you have to take the first step. Otherwise, you can, of course, you can prompt things. Oh, write an email, and you don't look at it, and it's not your words even. So I think the question is about how do you use AI in the correct way, the correct sense.